Thanksgiving is probably the biggest holiday centered around tradition: turkey, stuffing, mashed taters, football, family. And every family has their own tweak of those staples. My family, we had the turkey, the football, and the pumpkin pie. And we also had to listen to my grandfather's borderline crazy views on the Vietnam War. And we also watched Survivor Series. The Survivor Series is a WWE event put on around Thanksgiving every year. It centers around two teams of 5 or 4 battling it out in an elimination match until there is one team left as the victors. My family watched it every year. Over the years, there were some great teams at Survivor Series. Team DX from 2006, Team WWE from 2001, Team Andre the Giant from 1987. But there have also been a lot of teams that, a lot like my grandpa's views on Vietnam, were bad. Two Views Wrestling has already covered some of those great teams in a previous episode. Today, we are going to look at those not so great teams. So grab a turkey leg, a pecan pie, and a glass of apple cider, which all suck, and let's talk about some bad wrestling teams. Number 5, Team Orton from 2011. Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, and Sheamus are all great, former world champions, and no doubt legends. The other two members of this team drag it way, way down. Let's start with Mason Ryan. Mason Ryan was like Batista. If you washed his tattoos off, put him in the microwave so he melted a little bit, and he couldn't wrestle. He was big with a lot of muscles, and that was it. And Sin Cara, oh my god. Sin Cara was terrible in the ring. But this match, he hurts himself like right away and had to be taken out. This was a big show. It was in Madison Square Garden, and it was the return of The Rock. It's unfortunate that Randy Orton had to take these two scrubs to the ring with him, and then one of them couldn't last 5 minutes without getting hurt.
Looking at this team, just looking at this card period, this was a time where I wasn't watching WWE, and I kind of see why, because the roster seemed thin as fuck. Ziggler was working twice that night. Now, during the pay-per-view, they said that Christian got hurt, that's why he had to do it, but still. Something that jumped out before I get to the team, though. Cody Rhodes' pop. Like, what did Vince not see? Like, put the title on him right then and there. Dude was always goated to me. But looking at the team, Wade Barrett's team, super nice. The thing that jumped out to me about his team, though, I wanted to ask you, though, is Huntsio. Hunico. Never heard of him. I only didn't watch WB for 3 years during that time. Obviously, he must not have lasted. Was there anything there with the guy?
Originally, so the original Sin Cara got hurt, and then they put the Hunico guy underneath the mask to fill in. And then when the original came back, they did have a feud as the good Sin Cara versus the evil Sin Cara. I think there was something there they could have built on. I don't know why they went with the character they went with for Hunico. It seemed a little racist. But his bodyguard was the future great Tonga Loa, the guy that racks up 5-star matches in Japan. So that's cool. But I think he had talent, but I just don't know what character you could have went with for him.
So now to the worst team. Well, number 5 on your list. Mason Ryan. I did know who he was. He did jump off on my screen sometimes when I would flip back and forth. I'm not surprised that he didn't turn out to be anything. Sin Cara, I was never really high on whenever I would watch him. It jumped out to me, though, that Kofi was a tag team champion on this team, and I'm like, well, who's his partner? I had to look that up, and Evan Bourne got busted with weed, which is crazy to me that people used to get suspended for weed. Fuck. But, so he would have made the team better, and then do you have any other options that they could have did that maybe would have made the team better than what it was on paper right now, or during the match even?
Yeah, you mentioned the Ziggler working double duty. You could have he wrestled John Morrison for the United States title. You could have put John Morrison on the team. But one guy I think really would have got over is Zack Ryder, because this was in Madison Square Garden in New York City. And then later, I believe it's off air, but when The Rock addresses the crowd, they rain down with "We Want Ryder" and drown him out. So it's like if you would have put him earlier, they would have shut up when the Great One was trying to talk. So, but he would have fit, and it would have worked.
Moving on the list, what's number 4?
For number 4, we have Team SmackDown from 2018. Now, the Raw versus SmackDown matches from the previous 2 Survivor Series were great, and they featured all-star teams. This team technically has big stars on it, but during this time in 2018, they weren't presented as such. Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe, The Miz, and Shane McMahon just weren't hitting here. Shane McMahon had more than worn out his welcome, and I, for one, was tired of seeing him in the ring, and especially in big matches. This was a low time for The Miz as well. To me, The Miz is best as a cocky, arrogant heel, but he wasn't doing that here. Ray and Jeff had bad booking and weren't being presented as the legends that they are. Now, Samoa Joe was coming off a main event feud for the WWE title with AJ Styles, but he didn't win any of the matches and he was never really a threat to be the champion. This team had potential, but was just presented as one step up from a bunch of jobbers in a forgettable match.
When I seen your list and this team made it, I was like, oh shit, I forgot. Like, Shane McMahon was a full-time wrestler at one point recently, somewhat recently. Agree with The Miz. I love The Miz. He's an A-lister, but he does not work as a rebel to authority, and it was corny what they were doing back then with him. I started thinking about what could have made this team better, though. Names that were around back then. Sami Zayn, but he was injured. Kevin Owens, he was injured. AJ Styles was weird because he lost the title 5 days. So when I looked into that more, it seemed like they wanted to give him rest, rewarding him for his run that he went on. Rusev Day was around back then. That was Rusev height. Would Rusev have made the team better for you or no?
No, I hated the Rusev Day thing. So I think Rusev, if it was Rusev, the monster heel from the Cena feud in 2015, that would have worked for me. I didn't care for Rusev Day.
And then another name that jumped out to me that maybe could be on the team, and you could let me know if that would have been a good idea, is, now I could be alone in this because I'm not sure when he was a wrestler, if it happened when I was a lapsed fan of WWE. I've always liked Byron Saxton as a character, as a commentator. Like, could he have worked? Like, was he a good wrestler that maybe could have worked on this team? Or did you not really watch anything that did he even wrestle on the main roster?
Yeah, I think you're alone in this. No, you've brought up Byron Saxton lately, and I've never seen him wrestle. The only reason I know that he was an in-ring wrestler is because there's an image that goes around kind of viral of the FCW roster in a certain time period. And it has the Rotundas and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Byron Saxton's on there. I know he wrestled, but I've never seen him wrestle, so I don't know how that would have played out or how that would have worked.
Yeah, I just think his mic work is really good. And then the other name, when you put this as a bad team that jumped out right away, is Ali. So apparently, he was supposed to get that push at Elimination Chamber. It was supposed to lead to a world title. Like, if you believe the rumors, he was supposed to beat Kofi's push and he was supposed to win the world title. Blah, 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 blah. Why was there no talk of him? Like, in essence, do you think if he would have been on this team, would that have helped him get that main event push?
Yeah, and when you brought that up before we started, the thing that instantly popped in my head for that was let him go it alone. Like, what Dolph did in 2014 at Survivor Series, he was quickly down. I think there was 4 guys against 1, and it was Dolph. And then he kept eliminating them. You could do the same thing with Mustafa here, and that's the start of his push. And he doesn't even, it's almost better if he loses. Like, let him be down 4-1 and him eliminate 3 of them, but the last guy beats him. So it's almost like he was almost on the cusp of winning and then didn't get it.
Dude, I like that idea too, because I've always liked Ali, and like lately, I'm gonna be honest, like ever since Kofi got, like, I don't, like, that's a whole crazy situation. Did Kofi steal his push? Well,
Yeah.
whatever. After that happened, I kind of just was like, well, fucking.
But
it's like he's forgotten now. But I
Yeah.
was like, why could he have been on this team, and would that have worked? And then what you just said, I feel like that would give him a babyface main event push.
Yeah. And it also would work because I feel like what made Bryan versus Kofi work was Bryan was like the ultimate underdog, and now he was going into the match with Kofi. Kofi was the underdog, where Bryan was the unbeatable champion. So that was a cool dynamic, and that would have worked even better with Ali, where you build Ali as the underdog going against Daniel Bryan, who's going to kick his effing head in. And I think it might have worked a little bit better than Kofi.
What's number 3?
Coming in at number 3, I have the Knights and Shawn Michaels from Survivor Series 1993. Now, the Hart brothers had united, and they were coming to Survivor Series to battle Jerry the King Lawler and his Knights. Lawler would have some pretty serious issues that kept him from this show, so Shawn Michaels would replace him. And even though the Heartbreak Kid is the GOAT and an incredible performer, he couldn't carry this team. There seemed to be no effort to make the Knights a formidable team. I mean, just look at their names. Red Knight, Blue Knight, and Black Knight. It's very creative and intimidating for sure. I think there were better options on the roster at this time. The company had veterans like the Natural Disasters that they could have used, or even young talent like Scott Taylor, who was the future Scotty 2 Hotty, and Louis Spicolli. You could have put them in that spot, and they would have been able to bump around for the other Hart brothers that weren't as good, Bruce and Keith. It's unfortunate that in the storied rivalry of Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, this match isn't better or more meaningful.
All I gotta say about this team is it felt like a Make-A-Wish for the Hart brothers, for the 2 lesser-known Hart brothers, like, or a favor like Bret Hart was like, "Hey Vince, you think you can do something for my brothers?" Like, so it definitely felt like a team that shouldn't, a match that shouldn't have happened.
Really, if you go back and watch the Jerry Lawler stuff feud with Bret Hart, it makes sense for the Hart brothers because he constantly was dogging on Stu and Helen, the mother and father. So it did make sense for the Hart brothers to come together and be like, stop talking smack about our mom. Say what you want about our dad, but don't talk bad about our mom. So the fact that Jerry Lawler was pulled from this kind of dampens it a little bit. I know they quickly tried to do something with Shawn antagonizing the family and going to their house and stuff like that. So they tried to save it a little bit. My issue is the Knights. There was no effort here to do anything with them. I know one of them, I believe, was Greg the Hammer Valentine. I much rather would have had Greg the Hammer Valentine than the Black Knight or whichever one he was. So, yeah, it was just, like you said, charity here. The Hart brothers got a pay-per-view match. They all got to be together. Their dad's here. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael's team was a bad team, and, like, sure, it'd be kind of cool if Jerry the King Lawler had his Knights, but it's still like, did they really think that was going to be a good idea even? Like, fuck.
Yeah, well, at least make them intimidating.
Yeah.
Make them all 7 feet tall or something. But they do make the list for being a bad team. It's not that, memorable of a match, but it is the start of the Bret and Owen feud, with Owen being the only Hart brother eliminated and then getting upset at Bret for it. So we got that out of it. So that's a bonus.
What's number 2? Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to ask just about that match. I didn't have time to look on the internet, but the historian might know this. Why wasn't British Bulldog on their team? Was he in WCW at that time?
Yeah, he was. He had got busted with cocaine or something, so he was in WCW.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
But he was with their sister, though, right? He was part of the family.
He was still a part of the family, but yeah, he was with WCW. But
dude, I'm watching this match because you put it on your list. I'm watching it, and I'm like, what the fuck's up with these weak Hart brothers? Like, where's the fucking badass brother-in-law? Like, obviously, if I'm going to a fight with someone that's talking shit about my family, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to take my weak brother. I'm like, yo, where's the bodybuilder that's banging our sister? He needs to come over here.
Aren't you upset? Yeah. But just you bringing that up just off the top of my head right now, what could have been cool is you have the Knights, they're in the mask, let one of them get unmasked, and it's Jim the Anvil Neidhart. That could have set up, that Jim the Anvil Neidhart turned on the Hart family, which eventually in 94 he would side with Owen and they would be heels. That could have been a cool spot of
something to save this team.
Yeah, and it's memorable, and yeah, Brett pulls the mask off one and it's his former tag team partner, Jim Neidhart. That could have been a cool moment, but this was 30 years ago and there's no point.
Speaking of Bulldogs, I feel like Miss Cleo.
Yeah,
who's number 2?
Yeah, coming in at number 2 is the British Bulldog and the Mean Street Posse. And I love the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and he's a legend, no doubt. But this sadly was not him at his best. He was still recovering from a horrific back injury that he got in WCW. And honestly, he shouldn't have been wrestling at this time. And the Mean Street Posse, they just all around sucked. The Posse only made sense while with Shane McMahon. And once they weren't working with Shane, they shouldn't have been used. This team didn't make sense or work at all to me. The Posse members would all be eliminated in a row, and Bulldog would quickly be on his own. But showing that he still had some bite left in him, he was able to eliminate 2 members of the opposing team on his own before being taken out and losing the match. He would be leaving the company about 6 months later, and it's unfortunate that he didn't have a better showing on this big of a show.
What jumped out about this team is what an odd pairing. It felt like a jock defending his nerd friends from a group of emo and goth kids at school. That's what this match felt like.
That's you probably just saved that team for me, because now that kind of, not so much the jock, because I believe he's in the jeans and the boots. It's almost like the burnout kid that lives in the house behind these 3 nerdy kids is tired of watching them get bullied. And he's like, you got to stand up for yourself. I'll go fight with you.
Yeah, that's what that felt like. What's number 1?
Coming in at number 1 is easily the worst Survivor Series team ever, and it's Team Mustafa from 1991. And I don't even know where to start with this suck-ass team. Let's just look at the lineup. You had Colonel Mustafa, the Berserker, Skinner, and Hercules. I'm pretty sure that me and 3 of the guys that I play pickleball with could beat this team. Colonel Mustafa was known as the Iron Sheik in a previous life. Now, the Iron Sheik was one of the greatest heels of all time and a former WWE World and Tag Team Champion. Colonel Mustafa was a pretend Iraqi soldier and in terrible shape. The Berserker just marched around with a sword and yelled "Huss" a lot. His sons, Eric and Ivar, would have better careers as the Viking Raiders. Skinner was a gator wrangler with a mouthful of tobacco and disgusting sludge in his beard. And Hercules was on his way out, and clearly steroids had taken a toll on him. He looked like he got blown up with a bicycle pump and could barely get in the ring without needing to hit an inhaler. And to show you how terrible this team was, they would be eliminated in a clean sweep and lose. I think you all agree with me when I say this is hands down the worst Survivor Series team in history.
Yeah, that team was bad. The only thing that jumped out to me when I was watching it, though, was I was wondering if Kevin Smith was a fan of wrestling in the 90s, and that's how he came up with that song Berserker from the movie Clerks. It was based on that wrestler. Other than that, I was like, what the fuck was Vince thinking with those wrestlers?
Yeah, I recently went back and watched this whole show, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? It was like you let a 5-year-old pick 4 wrestlers from the back to go out and have a match.
That's the list of the 5 worst Survivor Series teams in WWE history. Let us know in the comments some of your views on which teams in the Survivor Series lore stood out to you as just being completely and utterly bad.